Hi, my name is Sally Barnard, an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer. Welcome to Call Me Zena, a true story into the spiritual realms. Join me as I sit and discuss the journey of self-discovery, and with the help of my spirit guides, it's time to trust your intuition. Sit with me and call in live 888-994-4995, Studio A. And now onto the show.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, it's this time of the day, and I always start that way, but I'm going to read a prose or poem, whatever I feel it's called a prose, from my book. And I'm going to open the show, and then we're open to anybody that wants to call in. Please call. It's about karma today and previous lives. 888-994-4995, Studio A. Would love to hear from you. I'm opening up with no mystery, no magic. We are all what is, we are here. There are many clues within our being. What greatness we have, what sorrow which has been. Please listen to yourself. We hold the key to open any door and lock out what is when we are scared. We ourselves can make a change, find joy on this road. We will have many bumps and challenges. Do not despair. Seek, and you will find such happiness. Go with a smile, laugh out loud, go with peace and forgiveness. Go with others on this journey. We are but one, we are not alone. Enjoy what we have chosen. Let us listen and learn in this short space of time. We will return, we will understand. Go with love, my children. That is what we have, do not forget. I wrote that many, many years ago. I had no idea what I was putting down on the piece of paper when I wrote these things, the same as my drawing. But today, many years later, some of what I wrote, and I know I wrote it, but I didn't understand it. But it's a journey. We learn on this journey, and I'm learning so much from what I actually put down myself. So I'm going to open up to anybody in the studio here or anybody that wants to call in. Please ask me any questions. Thank you.
So Sally, by reading that, basically, what is it that the message is?
It's basically, I think it's a form of forgiving ourselves. And it's a way, sometimes once I get into this mode, I'm not even sure quite what I just read. But it's about forgiveness. Forgiveness is very difficult, but it's very, very important. We go, as I had said, I said go with love and try to forgive. But first of all, we have to forgive ourselves for some of the things that we have done.
So the past is going to teach us to forgive ourselves? Is that true for everyone?
It's true for everybody, but we're not all ready to do that. I think it's important to maybe say it out loud, as I am myself. We need to, we've all had bumps along our journey here. We have problems, we have many things that happen. I think the hardest part of this journey, and this is just coming to me, as you know, my guides do talk to me, is that we're on a learning lesson here to learn. And it's hard. It's hard to forgive ourselves, but if we forgive ourselves, I feel that it might be easier sometimes to forgive somebody else. But it starts within us. If we choose, we've all done things that maybe we're not that proud of or that we wish we hadn't done, or sometimes we wish we could do. But I think it all starts with an understanding. And hopefully on my shows, I try to, and actually my shows help me very much, though I don't always remember because I'm in some sort of a trance. But when I look back and I listen to some of the recordings, I'm learning from myself because I'm being channeled by guides. It's not always me talking.
Those are your guides.
Okay, but my guides do that. I sneeze.
You want water?
Welcome to my world, Freddie. Welcome to my world.
Oh, I don't know what it is.
No, it's a sneezing, which happens, Dawn, to me, right?
I'm curious to ask because I know that we had some people in studio before, and everybody has this question about past lives and what's the significance of past lives? Why is it so important to try to remember past lives?
I mean, we can go through our lives without remembering.
But what's the benefit?
But the benefit from learning, it's like a continual journey. So if we continue on this journey, sometimes what we may have done in another lifetime, we don't know unless we go deeper through hypnosis, or I'm able to pull out sometimes people's past lives. I believe we've had many past lives, as I was just saying to one of our guests here before on the show. And I'm not going to bring in, or even for myself, as Alda used to say to me, and he could remember, who is Adamir in my book, a lot of his lives, but he's only going to bring in from a past life what might be relevant to help us on our journey in this particular lifetime. So if there's something that I did or I'm repeating, or karma, as we had said the show is about, I have another opportunity to get rid of that karma. But if I don't remember, I'm doing it, but I don't remember. So I think the basis of your question, of what you asked, is important sometimes, because we all bring in something. We don't know what we're necessarily bringing in, but we're kind of ahead of the game if we got an answer from another life, how to handle it, and we'll do it differently, and then we're done with the karma.
But Sally, then explain to me, how is it that you go from one past life to another past life to another past life? What is it that is passing?
What is passing?
What is it that is passing? A past life. What is it that's passing?
Well, we have many lives. We're playing, I would say we're on a journey. So I'm not sure if this is answering your question, but it's a journey. So we're continuing our journey. If we only have such a little time here. And for me, and I often say I can't prove any of this. It's what I hear, but I hear so many other people, that's validation, that haven't met me, that are saying the same thing. So to me, it's very real. We're continuing our journey here. So if there's somebody, and I use this as an analogy, if you meet someone, you can either take an instant liking to that person, or an instant, well, we're on the subject, no, I'm just joking, or an instant disliking to somebody. So that, no, I'm not. I have to put humor in it somewhere too. I don't often do that, but I like to have humor. I think it's important. So I'm continuing, and I could continue not to like that person for the rest of this lifetime. That can happen too. But if I'm aware.
But hold on. But if I ask you, Sally, can you see my past lives? Can you see that?
I can see some of your lives.
Okay,
Freddie,
but
yes.
the question that I'm not talking about my physical past lives.
No.
But this is what I'm trying to get at. Spiritually, emotionally, what is it past lives represent? What is it that you actually can see?
Oh, Lord, a past life represents part of who we are. It's our lives.
But
It's
be
no different.
more specific. How?
Because we're going into another, you know, often in this, let's just talk about this lifetime. If someone has had traumas in this lifetime, think about this, and this is coming to me. It's not me, to answer this question that quick, but it makes sense. So if I go to see a therapist, for instance, which a lot of people do, there's nothing wrong with that. What is one of the first, well, not always the first thing, they want to know your background. They want to know your parents. They want to know your siblings. They want to know your friends. There's a reason for that.
I totally agree. So let's say that they tell you that you have a trigger that makes you start crying. You hear or smell or taste something. All right. But now let's put that in context of a past life. This trigger is a representation of something that happened in the past?
I love that, because it's making sense even to me too. There could be because I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I do get help. There could be a trigger, or press your button, as people say, and I can go back into this lifetime, and I cannot see anything that represents anything. Why should that do it? Here lies the important part of this question. You can go, I'm getting goosebumps, you can go back in lifetimes, and that's where it could be. There is going back into lifetimes. People have therapy. We were talking about someone that did that just before the show started. Very well-known psychiatrist went in, and he was hypnotizing someone to go back into their childhood in this lifetime, because he didn't know why this woman was reacting, I think. But what he did, and he was very surprised, but he came out with it and wrote many books. Brian Weiss, I believe his name is. He went back into another lifetime, which we all can do under hypnosis. Well, not all, but we tried. Hypnotists can take you back there. And the answer to that can be from another lifetime. So if maybe it's a pain you're getting. Doesn't have to be something, it could be as easy. That I keep getting this pain, let's say here. did I hurt my arm? I can't remember. I mean, it goes more than that. But maybe in another lifetime I was in a war and I got shot in that. Once you know it, for some reason, I think it helps you heal. That's why they do it, because you know that you're not making this up. It's real. It's very real. So that's one of the things to go back in a previous lifetime, and that's very important.
There was a study done in Harvard that they attribute narcissistic behavior and bullying behavior. They tried to tone it down to past life behavior. These were instances of what they saw, and by they, these are people like yourself and panels and things of that nature. They could see how other people's traits were, and they said that the behavior was a trigger to prior lives. The only problem is it's very difficult to prove.
Yes, it is, but if you're under hypnosis, and the hypnotist may not necessarily know what nobody knows what the trigger is. But if you go into a lifetime, and I believe you can do this because you can maybe train yourself to go in your subconscious, it's actually super consciousness, you go back into a particular lifetime for when this trigger would start, you triggering in this lifetime. And you can bring yourself back into that. And it helps tremendously. It really does.
It does, because it could trigger into you crying emotionally,
and
you don't even know why.
Exactly. And also they're telling me this, let's even say twins. We all have we have our own personalities, which I think we bring into each lifetime, very similar to to the personality we had. They're brought up in exactly the same home, with exactly the same situation, same schools, same friends. Like twins is maybe we can relate more because, well, it doesn't matter, sibling, that they could be older or younger. They can be totally different. And one could suddenly burst out crying about something for no apparent reason, yet the other twin is going around and, what's wrong with you, or brother or sister? That is an answer maybe to another lifetime. They've had different lifetimes together. So I truly, truly believe that this is very real. I really do.
I guess the question here is, should we seek someone or something or somehow to learn more of our past lives to understand our present life?
Well, that depends on, an individual's person and their belief system. But I started my journey actually with the doctor that read the book that I was reading the book about. And I said to myself, I would love at that time to do hypnosis and to take people back in. It's coming back to me. This is what I wanted to do, into previous lifetime, to help the traumas from that lifetime or even the illnesses. I was really, really interested in it. It's like it's gone in a circle now, because to me it's coming back to me what I actually really wanted to do about 25 years ago.
Would you agree that 90% of people want to learn more about who they really are?
I don't know if it's as high as 90%.
I think that if they admit to it, a lot of people won't admit to it, but they won't admit into looking in their past either.
But the good thing today is that even with my book, which was about 20 years ago now that I wrote this, I was traveling around to different planets, and I was compelled to bring it out to the public, whether they believed it or not. I knew I had to do that. But today, we're changing, and that's the good thing. I have this more of an understanding, and more people are looking to want to understand more. Where did they come from? Why are we here? I mean, if you think about it, why would you not want to know? What is this all about? It's nice to know, maybe, and I totally believe that we come back, to know that this is not the end of a journey. This is really important. And the world, we're shifting. We're definitely shifting. When I talk to people now, and I always am courteous enough to say, do you believe in a past life, before I might even say something, because I think that's important to do that. I don't have to, but that's who I am. And most of the people that I speak to, especially here in the cafe, say, absolutely, we had a very good example today. If I had done that maybe 20 years ago, people, no, not really. I know they still say that, but more and more people are definitely tuning into this. Absolutely. And I think it's an important subject. I think it's very important, because after all, if you're suddenly triggered by something and you don't know why, I can't imagine not wanting to know why you suddenly get so upset. or even maybe laugh at something, right?
But does your soul stay the same?
It does. We come back in as different people, but I'm learning more and more that we basically are who we are throughout this. You know, we can be a man or a woman, and we can have different family members. We have a soul family. I think we basically keep our personalities. I've heard that too. I thought that, but I heard somebody else say that not that long ago.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but yeah, unless we change. We can change over situations in a lifetime. So even if we wanted to prove that, or I like humor, so maybe I was very funny in another lifetime. I'd like to know that lifetime. I think it's, for me, it's knowing that helps you in a way. So it works both ways. Not only are you depressed about something, you can find humor in that and how you're able to from another lifetime.
And if you have conflict with somebody in this lifetime, is it probably because, for, like, say, a parent and even a child, right?
Yep,
You can't
yep.
do anything about that, but there's internal strife and conflict.
I think our best lessons actually are with our family, because it hurts, you know, sometimes if you have a family member. But we choose that, but we're also choosing, because I believe on the other side, we look at things differently. So if we've had a conflict with a parent or a child, we choose to come back to settle that. So we come back in families, but more of maybe a family where we're the mother or father or a child, because very often a lot we learn from parents and our children, and because it hurts more if there's conflict. We can still have that conflict, but it goes a little deeper, you know, and we have a soul family. So.
Well, Sally, the other thing is you want to make sure people understand that your past life doesn't necessarily dictate who you are.
Absolutely.
Just
100%.
explains what you are.
I'm glad
it's a big
you
difference.
mentioned that. A very, very big difference. And I learned that from Aldo, my friend who taught me so much in this lifetime, because he said, I'm not bringing in, I had been in lifetimes with him. He only brought what was relevant for me to learn in this lifetime, because it carries on. So my next lifetime, if I've got rid of some karma there with someone, I won't bring it in. There'll be other situations and circumstances, because we're on a journey to learn. But if we can that's why forgiveness, which we opened up with, is so very, very important. Because if you don't, you are going to have it happen again in a different situation. And it could be in this lifetime. We've talked about that before. It could be many times in this lifetime. But if you do not settle it, it may not be the next one, but it will be in a lifetime again. Because that's what we're doing. We want to understand more and learn more and forgive and love. And love.
So
Love
is it fair to say understanding a path does not dictate your future?
No, it doesn't. It may make it easier if you understanding why you always you push your button and you get angry. Most people, I'm sure, say, I want to get angry, but you don't really. You want to have a more of a peaceful life. So if you can overcome some of that anger, I'm just using anger, it can be different things. It helps us internally to get rid of it. It's good to voice your opinion, but that karma that we have, and if you feel that with another person on this journey, maybe there's something you're meant to work out with that happened, which we don't remember unless we go into another lifetime.
So if we go to, say we do a past regression with you, and we find this traumatic experience and how it's affecting us and triggering us now, can then you help that person say, all right, I've recognized this trauma, this is how we can work through it?
Yes, because I think understanding it is what's more important than even at that point, because now you have something to go with and to go by. Because I can say, I don't like you to somebody, but I don't even know why I'm saying it. I mean, I can think it. I'm not going to necessarily say it out loud. But if I can understand, or not just me personally, anybody, that we had a conflict in another lifetime, and it could be 10 lifetimes down the road, doesn't necessarily be the last lifetime. It may help me overcome that, because it will come up again in a different situation. My voice is going, I'm sorry. And it will come up again. It will.
Do you want to take a commercial break?
If you want, yes.
Why don't we
can.
take a quick commercial break? Give us a call, 888-994-4995, Studio A. Call in to ask Sally a question. It seems like this past life topic is triggering both of you for whatever reason. I don't know, the coughing thing.
Yeah, now my voice is going.
Well, I think it's just really important that people understand the difference between your past life dictating who you are and adding up pieces of understanding what you are. I think that's a major, major difference there.
So let's take a commercial break.
That's very interesting.
We'll be right back.
We'll come back on that topic. I love that. I think it's so important. My story starts at 4 or 5 years old. My name is Sally Barnard, and I was born at the end of the Second World War, in the middle of an air raid siren going off. My parents were in a movie theater, and my mother went into labor. My father ran out of the movie theater, but there was no cabs to be available because everybody is running for cover. However, they found one, and the taxi driver was given the address to take my father and my mother to the hospital. As my mother was in labor, about a half an hour, I arrived at exactly midnight. I think I was fed messages at a very early age. My parents used to like to play cards, and they had a card game every Wednesday or Thursday night at home when I was a baby. And I actually said to them one day, "Why do you keep waking me up at night? The card game is waking me up, and I can't get back to sleep so quickly." And they looked at each other and they said, "We're not really waking her up." They were quite away from my bedroom. And they called in a psychic to say, "What in the world is going on?" And the psychic said that I'm getting many messages that are waking me up at night. I thought whatever I was experiencing, other people were experiencing too. You don't know until you realize that you are different. Many things were happening to me, things that were unexplainable to me. What I had dreamt was happening. I could sense many things, and the things that I was sensing were coming about, but something was going on. I will explain to you everything. You're ready.
A True Story, Call Me Zena is the telling of Sally Barnard. Born in London, England at the end of the Second World War, she came into the U.S. in 1979. A mother of 2 and a grandmother of 4, she settled in Florida and worked in real estate. While going through a difficult time in her life, she was admitted into a hospital overnight in December of 2005. While settling back into her life, she began having vivid dreams and documenting them. By the 3rd dream, a lady gave her a message to draw. With no artistic background or interest into art or history, Sally listened to her dreams and grabbed a paper and crayons. Today, she has over 150 pieces of inspiring art and poetry. This book follows her journey and interpretations of these messages. She describes in detail how she is able to astral a project and who she has met along her travels, including her spirit guides. This book will show you how anything is possible with an open mind. These events have changed Sally's life and direction, and this book will show you how to change yours. Purchase Call Me Zena on Amazon today, authorhouse.com and amazon.com.
Thank you for joining me through this journey of self-discovery with the help of my spirit guides. I'm Sally Barnard, and you can find my book at authorhouse and amazon.com or visit my art on my clothing in my boutique at artbysallybarnard.com. Now back to the show. Hi, we're back. I believe we have a caller.
Veronica.
Hi, Veronica? Hello? Hi. Okay, I'm glad you called in.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing good. I'm so glad to finally be on your show.
I'm happy too. So, what was it your question, Veronica? I'm waiting to hear it.
Well, I don't know if it's a question or more just like a feeling or a statement, but
Okay.
I was thinking about how sometimes for me at least, I feel frustrated about the things that I feel passionate about, the things that I feel drive me, and that I really want to pursue. Sometimes I feel like I feel like I wish I didn't have them and feel so passionate about them, because they're not easy. It's not easy to pursue. It's like, like sometimes I think, like, why do I care so much about this? Why can't I just, have some simple, like, path that is, like, very easy to follow? I don't know. I don't know if I'm putting it correctly into
No,
words.
you are,
but,
absolutely. I don't know if
but
did you
it's
listen
just
to
interesting, and I do feel like it's probably passed over or carried over from
Yeah,
a previous
that's
life,
what I was gonna
because I
ask
just
you.
didn't choose it. It chose me.
Did you listen to the first part of the opening of the show just now? Because we were talking about past life and drama. If you listen to that, it carries on exactly what we were just talking about, and actually earlier in the studio too. Because if you're passionate, but the more, I think the more we understand this, the harder our lessons are. And I think that applies. You're just opening up, and I know that, but you are opening up, which is so important, Veronica. So the lessons that you're getting, the things that you're passionate about, but then you say maybe it's too difficult, or you're just not there, you're not ready to do that. It's just, we have a higher self. Let's go with that. It's talking to you that, yes, you can do so many of these things. But if it's very difficult for you, I think it would be good if you say to yourself, well, I'm on this journey, but you're on the journey, you are already on your journey. You're becoming more and more aware of it. So if it was all easy, you're not going to learn as much as if you're going to learn more. Once you're on a journey, you make it a little more difficult. We choose our journeys. We bring it in, as I was saying, from a previous life. So I believe you're choosing these situations to overcome them, some of them in this life. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, because I
Definitely.
felt that, having met you too, I feel, you can call it an old soul, whatever we are, but I feel that you're opening up very much, let's say, to the universe right now. And the fact that we've opened up, we've known each other quite a little while now in the studio, but never really talked.
Yeah.
Like this, we've talked.
Yeah,
it's
I
your
know, and
time.
I've wanted to, since I met you, I've actually wanted to, and I just never had never felt it right in the moment. But today, the conversation was just lending itself so perfectly. So I'm glad we got to talk and open up a little bit about that, because it is something I'm so curious about. I want to know more about my past lives. I feel like it would help me, on my journey today.
Absolutely. This is what I don't believe in coincidences, which the last show was synchronicity or coincidence. No, this was meant to be today, and I hope that helps you, because the more that you the more we all have an innate feeling about certain things. It's within us, but the more that you open up, the more it will show itself to you. And I think you're definitely in that process now, Veronica. Thank you so much for calling in.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Well, Sally, if she wanted to meet with you, would you do a past life regression?
Absolutely, yes. And we do it here in the studio. So anybody that calls in or is local, I'd be happy to do that. We can do a one-on-one, which, it's lovely to call in, and I just did for Veronica, but having met her in the studio. So on a one-to-one, yes, I can definitely go. I had a very good, experience with Jay, who I do the show with on a Friday. Just to go over that very quickly, I gave him the name of somebody that I knew that he was in a past life, who was an artist. And my validation for myself too, and for the person that I'm giving, we went into Google. I had never heard of this person, and right there, just before he was born, was an artist, and he's a pencil artist. This gentleman, that was him, which he's now done a lot of research on, was a pencil artist. It was right there on Google. So that was for him, but anybody. I'm interested myself. I've gone into a few different ones.
Have you ever done one on yourself?
I haven't done on myself, no, because I have been to a past life. I've had a few myself, though. I haven't journeyed myself done that myself, no.
Do you ever get torn between the physical world and this other world that we all live in?
Yeah, I definitely do. I don't realize it always, but sometimes, as my friends have told me, especially Margaret, she said, you're so clear on the show, you answer immediately. But sometimes in life, this and that, and I'm not, but here it's like, this is a different world. I'm in a different world right now. For you guys that know me, and I'm on the show, I think I'm still in that world. But sometimes just walking around, I get confused. But that's, we all do. But I know, I now can see, I can feel the difference. I feel the difference.
Because I think they're finite decisions in the physical world. It's here or there, yes or no. There's a little bit of gray, but something actually happens physically.
Well, it's very important to be in this world, and that's what I have to tell myself, because I've had some very, even for me, some very strange things happening. But I have to, I'm real, I'm walking around, I have to be here. But on the other hand, I wouldn't change what happens to me sometimes. I love it, because I'll come in and guess what happened? I mean, I love that.
In the garage.
Yes, in the garage.
The garage.
Yeah. Anybody that's English listening, we say garage, and they say garage. We say potato, you say, no, we don't say potato actually. But. Okay, back to the show.
All right, we're switching mics here. I don't know. Question?
So I think when she called in, I think she stipulates the way people feel. She always wanted to. I think everybody wants to. I think everybody asking somebody else to guide them becomes a way of trying to find out more. Can you do this by yourself? Or do you always need someone else to help you with this?
That's a very good question too, because I started this journey. I had not spoken to anybody. I knew I was getting feelings and things, but I didn't know who to talk to. And that can happen, or is that just a coincidence? All the things that had happened to me leading up to me beginning to open up to this. So it was the situations and circumstances that happened. But I knew what was happening, but I didn't know who to express it to. Today it's easier. So if you feel that, I do believe, and it happened to me, suddenly I said, okay, in my own mind, I'm open to this. And I started Aldo was the first one. They just seemed to be everywhere. All the things that I had thought was coincidence, it wasn't. It was synchronicity leading me up to that point. I started later in my life, although many things had happened prior to that. But I'm sorry, it's okay. Okay, so can you ask me that?
So Aldo guided you, and now you picked up what he taught you. So now you're able to do what he's telling you to do?
It's timing. There is no time as we know time, but he knew I had opened up at that point, because I astral, for people that are out there that understand this, I started to astral project the night before I met him. I did not know even the word astral projection. However, I'm flying around. Something in my mind had opened me up more. I didn't know that was going to be my timing. And I go into work the next day, and there he is, and he's telling me exactly, because he was my guide here, but would never have approached me prior to that happening. However, I had been in hospital a few weeks before that, where I had had some sort of a dream, but it suddenly opened up. Everything was beginning to open up. I'm going to say lucky enough, but it's not coincidence. He waited. He knew me a year before he even approached me. That was what happened to me. So he knew what was going to happen, but would never have approached me unless I was ready, because I would have thought he was crazy. So we open up. We may not be aware that we are, but something triggers something that and I believe that we set a time and a place, because I believe we plan our life, but we also have free will, and we have free will within ourselves to change that. But I do believe, I'm certainly not unique. It's happened to many people. So we will see many things. Listen, actually, I think I just read that. Listen to your surroundings. Everything is around us. It's up to us to follow our own messages, basically.
But isn't it fair to say you didn't see that until you met Aldo?
I was seeing it, but I didn't understand it. That's more. Yeah, we'll all see it, but it won't make sense. I was lucky enough to, and I remember prior to me talking, I was reading a very famous psychic. I was reading her book, Sylvia Brown. So I was getting into it, but I didn't know that. I remember talking to a candle before I met him. I said to the candle, can you flicker if this is true? So I was opening up, but I didn't realize how much I was opening up. So in a way, I was giving my guides the permission to talk to me more. That's exactly what it is. And that's what Aldo felt. And then I began to fly all around the place. I mean, that's not normal. in my world at that time. And I was seeing all these things and the message that I should paint. And the next day he's there and explains my whole entire... If he'd done that earlier, I think I would have totally freaked out. But I'd had an experience that I didn't understand. And he was able to get into my dream and tell me in a quiet way, this is what you dreamt last night. Who can do that?
But physicality is not... The question here isn't about what's normal.
Oh.
Flying around has many different meanings. What you've learned is what you've seen. And that can come in a lot of different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be the physicality of understanding.
Absolutely. That was my I believe we make a choice when we're ready. That I couldn't deny what was happening to me. When someone tells me I think I often said I needed some like this on my head, bang me to make me remember some of the things. Mine was pretty dramatic. Doesn't have to be. Suddenly I'm painting and I'm drawing. I couldn't paint in this lifetime. I've obviously been in other lifetimes where I painted. And one more thing on that, which I couldn't deny. I'm drawing signs and symbols from other lifetimes.
But what does that mean to you?
It meant I was ready, Dawn. I might not have known it, but outside of myself or my higher self was saying, if not now, when type of thing. So I still had years left here to rediscover. And Aldo told me that I knew all this in a lifetime, not the last one, but a few centuries before that. So I'm rediscovering what we don't lose what we learn. We may think we do, but we don't. I'm absolutely certain of that. I was obviously an artist in one lifetime. So now was the time for me to remember because I was ready. I didn't know it. I was having all these things for years prior to that happening, as we all do. But we don't sit up and take notice of it.
But there are things.
Well, I got a question. So you find out you're an artist. Is it the fact that you are an artist, the lesson learned? Or is the fact how people see you and perceive you, the lesson learned?
It's everything. Because I'm just opening up to a whole new way of looking at life. One was that I was an artist. I can't.
But that has more than one meaning.
Yes, but you have to, in other words, even in this lifetime, what we're aware of, you've got to start somewhere to get somewhere. So I'm getting validation of a dream that was coming about that I thought I was dreaming. I learned that we do have an astral plane, and I was on that plane, and I'm going to different places. Literally, they're called plane, right? That I was beginning to open up, because if I don't open up, I'm not going to learn in this lifetime. We only have a limited time here. So what we learn, we bring into the next lifetime. Mine, as Alda had told me, had been dormant for 2 lifetimes after the first lifetime when I knew all this. So it's entirely up to us. We don't even have to come back, actually. I know that too. But we start this journey, and it's like reading a book, and you're halfway through. Don't you want to finish it? So it's the same thing. We do choose, and it's an experience that we're having that we keep bringing in. You brought something up, I don't remember, or you may be doing, that we were talking about that was really about the puzzle. I can't remember. We were talking about something in the break.
The pieces of my puzzle, that I should understand them.
Well, you compare a past life to a conglomerate of a puzzle that gives you different aspects of things that make you up. And it's a good way of looking at it. Right? You have to understand your own puzzle.
Yeah, and we have certain places, and puzzle is a good analogy actually, because we have a place here, we have a place there, and sometimes, and this is I think what we brought up too, an outside person, and maybe we've had a conflict in another lifetime for whatever it is, they try, I don't know, call it control actually, try to change our puzzle. So if it feels wrong in my lifetime, or anybody, I'm just referring maybe to myself, or it doesn't really matter, but anybody has this, there's a reason for that, because they may be trying to change that, where I know that piece went in, and this is really good. Someone's taking it out, putting it somewhere else, and putting their piece in. This is great. Whoever you are, thank you for this analogy. So we all have a completed puzzle. And we don't always complete it in this lifetime. But that's the best way that I feel that I can explain that, if that makes sense.
You have a completed puzzle?
My puzzle is not completed. There's more to learn. But I think that understanding, my understanding of my past lives, or whatever you want to call it, has come from meeting people like Sally, meeting people like you, meeting a lot of people. You know, in my lifetime, I just came from New York City, and I sat in Central Park and I look and say, you know, I've been here before, and I didn't learn a damn thing. And I didn't learn anything about other people and their stories and how you approach them and how you talk to them and what they give you. And it's not big. It could be small. It could be huge. It could be a lot of different things. It's not the physicality of it. It's what it means. It's the meaning of it. So I've learned, listening to what she talks about myself, but I haven't learned everything. I've learned a better understanding, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and I think even people say, well, you know, I'm doing this show and I've done it for a few years now, but which I said before, I'm learning too. I don't know all the aspects of myself, but it helps me when I bring it out to know that what I'm saying, I believe what I'm saying, and I can hear it again because I get channeled, which I don't mind saying today. You couldn't even use the word channeling years ago, because I don't know all this. But it helps me on my show. So hopefully I'm helping other people. Because if you're not aware of something, you don't know what to look for. But bringing back New York, which is very interesting for me, from a child, I loved London. I lived right in the center of London. But I had this people that know me when I was in London, I knew I had to come to the States. I absolutely knew it. When I first came here, was just on a vacation from London, I had tears in my eyes. Because this is where I knew I needed to be, to meet the people, I guess, that I knew that were here. But I didn't know they were here. But later on, through my journey, Aldo was a very good example. Even being at the cafe here, you know how I feel about that. It was important because I believe that's part of my own passion. It's not just the art or what you do. Your passion is to go where you know that you have chosen to be, where you're going to meet more of your soul family.
It's funny because you remind me of somebody that I know that did not want to pick a path. The path picked her. And then after she drank the Kool-Aid, then she became more aware of the path. And it just grew and it grows. And then that path, then that person wants to hear and see more. And when it comes, the first thing that comes to mind is, I don't understand. But if you're asking to see more, then be prepared to see more. If you want more, and you ask for more, and more is given, don't sit.
Absolutely, Freddie. That was perfectly said. Because, you know, I've had some, which I've talked to you about, some very, it's not strange, and I'm going to call it in my world. It's coming to me, and I get a lot recently. And I even say, how did that happen? But I know it happened. I mean, I've seen some amazing things. But I've asked for that. Even if I wasn't aware of it, I look today and say, okay, I asked for that. We don't always do that. But in order to ask, you have to be aware of what you're asking for. So I call this into the unknown. It is an unknown, although we know it. So we're not going to get more. I truly believe, and we have a lot of problems, and the saying is, you're not going to get more than you can handle. I mean, I heard that many times, I'm sure.
Yeah, that happened to me last week.
But you're not, because you're ready for it. You may not think you're ready for it, but just if anybody out there is going, oh no, I'm not ready for all this, and we all have this, you're being helped. If my show just lets you know that, you're on your path. And as I just said to Veronica, I believe I said to her, she's getting things that she feels that she may not be able to handle because it's coming to her. It's her choice maybe to open up now. Anybody that's listening, and I don't believe even listening to my show is a coincidence, because I mean, people could turn it on and say, no, that's not for me, and I completely understand it. But for the ones that have stayed by me now, and the audience is going up more and more.
Well, what advice do you give them?
Is to just be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of many things that you think, we all say, well, how did that happen? Think about it. Yes, it happened. How did we come here? Think about that. If you go into that a little bit even, we're here in this world. How did this all come about? Aldo actually started to tell me the story about all that. And he said, he gave me 2 books to read. He said, you're either going to get through both of these books or you don't want to know. He said, and that gave him some inkling where I was. And they were difficult books to read in the beginning. I read and read them. I loved them. So he knew that I had, even though he knew me, he wasn't quite, because I had my free will, he couldn't completely get into my mind, but he knew I was ready. And he started to talk to me about how this world began and everything. And it was up here. But the repetitive of what he would talk to me, because he said, you know it. How would I know that I knew it? But he read me and he understood. I am not alone on this. There are many people with this same situation. I was lucky enough, well, it was arranged that my guide, we all have guides. They can appear here or talk to you.
So when you meet with somebody, you can actually let them know what they can and cannot see. In other words, you're going to explain the method of doing it?
I can only go by example, and I say this. I can only say what happened to me and how it proceeded from there on in. But I am not unique with these things happening to me. It happens to all of us. But what happened to me when I started this journey, I started meeting so many people that understood where I was coming from. I remember saying, and I know I bring Aldo up a lot, but he was great help to me. Okay, you know, and I'm living in Celebration in Orlando, and I don't know many people, and I'm going, am I ever going to meet anybody else? And he looked at me, he said, absolutely. And I met in Celebration, and just outside of there, near Disney World, well, not so many, but at least 7 or 8 people that understood exactly, not as Aldo was on a higher level, but understood where I was coming from. And suddenly they're appearing. You guys know that. It's happened here. We will attract. They call it the law of attraction. So I'm going to attract people that are on my level, just as you guys are. So that's how it all starts from that point. And it's not woo way out there. It's just what happens. It will do if you're aware of that happening. Hi.
A lot of different things to ponder and consider. But yes, I feel like I have the outside of my puzzle is being complete. I'm like outside working in, that it makes a little more sense to go this way.
And it can be difficult. You may not want to necessarily put that in your puzzle, but if it keeps coming, this is a great, I'm going to use this again, remind me about
The
this.
puzzle?
Because I believe that we have different puzzles. We have one puzzle completed in this lifetime, there'll be another one. But there's a big puzzle where it all fits into place, and you will meet people along that path. And I think that's a very good, for me, it's making sense to use that analogy.
Like I know this studio is a huge puzzle piece. People come here that are supposed to be here.
Absolutely.
I've learned how to control different energies, and when I first met Freddie, there were certain candles I could light and certain ones I could not light because the energies would just go crazy. But I've learned how to figure all those things out. So I know it's a growth process. That's the spiritual side.
And we're also all helping one another, just the 3 of us here, just by talking about that, by opening up. And that vibration goes out to other people that are having the same, just as they are on the other side. It's the same thing.
But if I told anyone the same conversation, there's certain candle colors I can light, certain ones they would think I was nuts.
Well, we have to also, I'm not going to say be careful, but we have to kind of get that feeling. Can we talk? Definitely.
But that doesn't matter the color. It matters the candle. And I think that we get caught up in the understanding of something physically. So it's the candle. That's it. It doesn't matter black, brown, blue. The definition of what these things mean to you is your puzzle. That the candles are part of the deal is the bigger explanation of the puzzle. I can even make it more complicated and say light. Forget about candles. Just say light. That could be a match. That it could be the sun. That it could be anything. It could be meeting somebody that walks in and saying, there's the light.
And yet you like the dark.
You see dark.
You see light.
You don't know what dark means.
Sure.
It's what I'm trying to explain. Don't put a finite explanation to what it is that you're learning. And I think that Sally has taught me to understand that. Not to see it, but to understand it. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, and it's like saying that out of negativity, you can bring positivity, because if you don't have, it's light and dark, if you don't have that, you're not going to understand the positive of what you've received, because actually negativity is it sounds silly, but can be good, because you're learning more and you can, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
That's because negativity is something that's been said.
Right.
It hasn't been shown. For me, it doesn't mean for you it's the same thing. I've never shied away from anybody who's negative, and you've seen that. And I don't do that, because that's not the way I see dark, and I see light. And to me, the way I see things is where it leads me.
And that's so important, and I think that's also what the show has been about, really, in a way. This is how we brought it, because, and again, I'll say, out of negativity can come a lot of positivity, because you've got to have black to see white.
So out of negative karma, you can have positive in this lifetime.
Exactly. And you don't, which we were talking about before, you don't know until you can bring it out. Because if you keep getting a feeling about something and you don't know why you're doing that, there's got to be a reason. There has to be a reason. If it keeps affecting you, no matter what it is, you have to bring it out first in order to see it, maybe examine it, look at it, and then you can turn it around with anything, with a problem, with anything. But if you don't bring it out, it's going to fester and fester, which that's psychologists.
You're just going to keep going life after life until you're
Yeah, and you can also get ill from it too, because negativity can make you, it's all part of what we're living right now. But if you don't question that or question life in itself, I mean, this is just my point of view. But when I started questioning life, why am I here, I was getting a lot of answers from Aldo, from what he was telling me, and from within. And I love it. I mean, as much as I hear it, I can't get enough of this sometimes. I want to know why I'm here and where I'm going and what am I doing. And I think most people do, but they don't want to, like we don't want to talk about dying. But in some countries, they talk about that. And they want to understand more about where we go. Here, it's getting better, very taboo to talk about these things, no matter what it is.
Why I'm here.
But if you
It's
have
a huge
faith,
question.
and it doesn't matter what your faith is,
True.
but if you have faith, there's a power greater than ourselves, you will continue that journey. Well, you'll ask the questions for sure.
100% true. All right, so what do my guides have to say before we wrap up on this?
They're saying hi.
Hello.
And you know, I wanted to call you over the weekend because I expressed that to you. And they're there absolutely for you, Dawn. And I always seem to say that there's definitely light at the end of this tunnel. And this conversation that we're having now is important for you, actually, because if you don't bring out discussions and you don't talk to your loved ones about these things or your friends, they need to know where people need to know where you're coming from. And especially family, without bringing anything up, we all have family or whatever it is. We need to talk sometimes, although sometimes it's difficult. But in anything in life, we need to bring it out because it's not going to go away if you don't. And by opening up just to know you've got help from guides, from angels, from whatever you want to know, it makes it easier. That's really what this is all about, right? You're not alone. We're not alone here. We're not alone.
That is true. That is true. Any other questions? Yeah, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, thank you. Thank everybody out there for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank
You have been watching Call Me Zena with your host, Sally Barnard. As an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer, know that you can always seek me out for resources by visiting artbysallybarnard.com. Join us next week, Mondays at 2:30. Have a blessed